Hi everyone, this is the E-mini S&P 500 futures. I'm using a 2000 tick chart and a 21 EMA. I'm also trading the NQ on a 1000 tick chart and also a 21 EMA. So starting off, this is the ES. We have our overnight high up here, overnight low down here. These are our key levels for the day. And so notice that we have this sharp push down. When we push up here, that forms our overnight low. And then when we get this push up here, this downtrend has a break. Now when a downtrend has a break, you can expect prices to attempt a new low. And so you only get one attempt at a new low right here. So this is really not good for a long. Downtrend, break, first attempt lower. You want to see the second attempt lower. This is just not good enough. So we push on up here. Notice that this uptrend, you have uptrend, break. Now when an uptrend gets a break, you can expect prices to attempt a new high. But this downtrend is much more significant than this uptrend. It's clearly a lot bigger. So to expect this higher low to win out with this uptrend over this downtrend is really not a good idea, because this is clearly much larger, much more significant. So we push on up here. This uptrend does have a break and a new high. It does push on up here. Now after that new high, price attempts to reverse, but it holds on the EMA. So that's telling you that the bulls are starting to win out, even with this downtrend still in play. And so we continue on higher. We start to form this channel. This is a spike in channel. We spike up, and then it kind of forms into a more easy to see trend. And unfortunately, there's no good longs on the way up here. As we make this new high, we just get a first entry. We're pushing up to a new high already. It's kind of getting stacked up choppy there. And so we continue on up, and then we get a first entry long, make a new high again, and then we break out on a first entry, and then second entry there. But it just keeps pushing below the EMA, so there's really nothing good looking here. We push on lower here. Now when we break out here, we can get a reversal pattern in this area. If we get a failed second entry that holds below the EMA, that would have 2 attempts higher for this uptrend. So let me just draw this out really quick, and then I'm going to unclutter a couple things. So if we had got something like this, and breaking out of this uptrend, and then these 2 pushes higher, that's a failed second entry. But this uptrend would also have a break and 2 attempts at a new high, which means you could look to get short on the failure. So this is a perfect area for that. Also considering that this, all the way up here, even though price has been holding this trend, we can still expect price to attempt a new low for this downtrend. Oftentimes the breaks are going to be bigger for bigger trends. This break, with this uptrend right here, when we push lower, this is a small little break. You're going to get much bigger breaks for the size, relative in size to the trends. And so we push lower here, no good reversal pattern, no good failed second entry. We just continue on down. We go into this channel right here, and then we find support right at that previous low right there. We push on up. And now when we push up here, it's pretty clear that price has made its first attempt at a new low, and now it's finding a correction. And so when it's pushing on up here, it's possible to get another failed second entry. And if you get a good failed second entry that pushes on up with 2 clear legs back, those 2 legs back holding on the EMA, or even if it doesn't hold, as long as it has a good pushback above and isn't getting too bearish, that would act as the second attempt, and you could look to get long on the failure. But it doesn't happen. It ends up just pushing all the way down and retesting this low here. So now it's pretty clear we're going into a range. The EMA is pretty sideways. It's, just up, down. So it's pretty sideways there. These lows are starting to fit. It's really just looking like a range. And then we push on up here on a triple test. So this is the 3rd time that this low is holding right here. And we have a good a good bullish reaction pushing above the EMA. This downtrend has 2 attempts at a new low. It didn't reach the measured move, but that's because there's some support right here, and we get a very good bullish reaction. So I like this trade right here. It was barely on this trend line right here. I don't mind pushing it a couple ticks out. It's a good big picture trade. I'm not going to worry about this, a couple ticks there. And so anyway, we push on up higher here, and then we get this little uptrend, break, and a new high. So this uptrend has played out at this point, but only on a small picture. On a bigger picture, you can still expect price to attempt a second leg, even with this break to new high. So this whole move up right here, including this little break to new high, is one leg on a bigger picture. And so let me back up 1 second. So after this trend plays out with a little break to new high, this is price attempting to reverse, because after trends play out, you can expect price to attempt to move to the other side to reverse. And so on this reversal, it ends up holding on the EMA. So this reversal has failed. And since the reversal has failed and is starting to push higher, this is just the break. This is just the bigger picture break of this overall move up. And so then we have uptrend, the whole thing. Then this is our break, and now we have our couple attempts at a new high. And then after those 2 attempts at a new high, price attempts to reverse, but the EMA holds again, and so then we continue up in this wider channel. And so anyway, when we push off here, we hold off that high. This range is really starting to take shape here. We push lower. This is a great place for a failed second entry. Now I just want to show you do have 2 legs up here. So you have uptrend, break, new high. This trend has played out on a bigger picture, and so this is a great place for a reversal pattern. Because once again, coming off those highs with the trend played out, you can just play the range rules and expect price to reach the other side, but you need a good setup to get along with it. And so you just don't get it here. You end up just pushing on down very sharp with no clear entry, and then you just push on up. Now, again, I don't like entering right there. We did start to go into this little uptrend right here. I just wanted to see a clear push down because one thing I do want to mention is right here, the measured move. So with this uptrend, break, push to a new high, you still only have 1 attempt at the measured move. Now, if you get a very good, setup, you can still take it. It doesn't need to reach the measured move every time, but it just didn't set up perfectly here. Especially considering the trend lines aren't always off of the wick. Sometimes you just got to adjust them around. So it was a bit iffy. I just wanted to see a clear failed second entry. I didn't want to bet on that. And so anyway, because it's one thing to mention is it's not as big picture. So kind of like right here, it didn't reach the measured move, but it's off this triple test with a very bullish reaction. This is just a double top, not as big picture, so I wouldn't just expect it to plummet on down like that. Just because it happens here doesn't mean it's going to work next time. So we push on up here. We don't reach the low. Oftentimes you get a spike down, you get a little correction. You can look to get in on a second leg down. So a second leg down to the other side. But in this case here, we end up pushing on higher, making a new high. And as we make this new high, this is nearly a triple test. Obviously, it is pushing a bit higher than those previous levels, but it's very close. Pushing on in here, this is a great place for a failed second entry. Again, push on lower, couple legs back. Let me just draw one out. So if we push lower here and get a couple legs back, we can get a great looking short because it would be first entry long, second entry long, failure, coming off the highs, off a triple test. So that's where we could look for something, but instead price ends up just fading a little bit, pushing on out, and now we clearly have these 2 legs up here because I want to show the bigger picture for a second. So let me move that back. We have downtrend, break, 2 attempts at a new low, and then a failure. So this failure is launching a new trend. So now we have this uptrend, break, first attempt higher, because one thing I want to show really quick, I don't want to confuse anyone here. On an even bigger picture, these 2 legs are still 1 leg. Just like I was mentioning how you have a little break to a new high, it played out, and then it gets bigger picture with a break to new high here. On an even bigger picture, this is all 1 leg. Okay, so you have this uptrend, break, 2 attempts at a new high, nearly measured before pushing on back down. And so, it just goes to show, these learning how trends play out and seeing them get bigger picture in real time is very important. And so, and you can even see that, the failure started from right here. So the trend starts from right here, but you still have this leg up right here. And so we can see how this measured moves ends up holding, if price gets up there. And so, yeah, on an even bigger picture, this whole thing is 1 leg. So, you just need to see it in real time. You just got to learn how to spot it. It can be very confusing at first, especially, watching it in real time and then learning when it's like, okay, it's failing. And so since it can't reverse, now it's getting bigger picture. Like, I understand it can be hard to learn at first, but anyway, so where were we? I kind of lost where it was. So we push on up here, almost met that measured move, and then we started getting very choppy, and now we're getting a plummet back down. So we can still push into a failed second entry. Price is fading this range. We have a couple big picture legs up. We can easily get a reversal pattern here. So we'll just see what happens. There's clearly some bullish bias going on here. We have these lows forming some uptrend here. So if we push on lower here, we can easily still get something that closes out and get a short. But if price pushes up and gets a second leg down, then if price pushes up and gives you a bar above the this high right here, then you can look to get long off this trend. But you just don't want to be entering right into that high because it's shown to be a pretty clear level that's holding. So you don't want to enter right into it. But anyway, that's going to do it for the ES. I'm going to hop over to the NQ here. So we have the overnight high, overnight low, just like on the other chart. We have this downtrend, break, then price has one attempt at a new low, and then it ends up taking off from there. Unfortunately, no clear entry, just like on the other chart. The two markets will follow each other loosely, but they're not going to follow each other exactly, and so you'll see a lot of similarities. But anyway, so pushing on up here, notice that we have uptrend, break, and then a new high. And so then price attempts to reverse, but the EMA holds, which means we're going into a bigger leg. And so notice that we have this leg up here. We have a much more clear break here. Notice that this plummet is bigger than this one. This one, it kind of just chopped to the side. This is a clear break. And then we start a second leg up right there. And then notice how perfect that measured move is. So these are very important to understand. But anyway, so as we push up here, this is more small picture, but it has good momentum. And so it's a second entry long. It's not two completely clear separated legs. You can still see, you have a push down here and then the green bodies we push up. We still have a second entry long. It is a little smaller picture than I like. It's just on the borderline. But considering the bullish momentum, this downtrend is unable to play out. It just keeps on holding. Now we have this measured move in play. We have a spike up right there. So not only do we have this uptrend and this measured move in play, we also have this little uptrend, tiny two-legged break, and it's closing out of this STT. So I like it right there for 1-to-1. Great momentum. But it's almost too small picture, but not quite. So I do like that right there. We push on up here, and then at that measured move, that's right where it stops. So, it pushes on through with that wick there, but right where those bodies close is right at the measured move. And so here we get these two pushes down. Now, you have a second entry long off of this key entry point here. It's fitting off those lows. It's fitting off these highs. But considering you just met a measured move level with a very bearish sharp reaction, I would not want to enter right into the EMA after that, even though it's holding off the key entry point. You would have made a 1-to-1, but it doesn't mean it's going to work out like that next time. It's just too risky right at that measured move. So anyway, we push on lower here, and now this uptrend has a break. Now when an uptrend gets a break, you can expect prices to attempt a new high, and that's what price does here. Now we don't get a clear long on the way up. We don't get a good, higher low or failed second entry. We don't get any clear setup here. We just push straight on up to a new high. And also, I noticed that, it's not a new high completely with that wick right there because the wick pushed up, but these bodies are closing higher than these bodies. The bodies are more significant than the wicks. It looks like it did go a little bit higher than that wick right there. But oftentimes there will be a higher wick and the bodies will still be will close higher than the previous bodies, and that is still a trend playing out on a bigger picture because bodies are more big picture than wicks. I know that kind of might sound weird, but the truth is these are more significant. Wicks are just price was there. These are closes, so they were just more significant. And so notice that swift reversal right after that new high. The uptrend just played out. Great place for a reversal pattern, a failed second entry, but it just doesn't happen here. We push on lower, and then very suddenly we get a sharp push back up. Now we still have from this high here downtrend, break, and then we have first attempt lower, second attempt lower, failure. Now there's not a clear entry on this failure. You're not off of any support. You are starting to go a bit sideways, but at the time, you don't have that range. You're just now forming it with those legs there. You're not off of any clear support, so I don't like that into the EMA. Even though the EMA is sideways, again, it's just not. There's no clear support, especially, you're just now expecting a reversal, so you would definitely want to see support when you're coming off, expecting to try to reach the other side. And so we push on up here. Now, I just want to mention this because I know that this might confuse some people because I have this triple test mark, but I kind of have it ignored that right here on a quad test, and that's because, like I was saying over here, the bodies are more significant. Clearly, the bodies got higher up here. I did not like a short right here because considering this sudden bounce and this bullish hold, even though there was no support, it's showing that price is starting to become more bullish overall for the whole day, a bullish imbalance in this range. Overnight high here, overnight low here. within this, if price starts holding to one side more, that's called an imbalance. And so we have a bullish imbalance forming. And so I would just want to see a perfect short entry considering the imbalance. And so it's closing in STT. The measured move isn't quite met. It kind of just wicked up really quick and went back down. I just wanted to see a very clear entry here. And so with here, now at this point, the measured move still isn't met, but you have this little uptrend break and a couple attempts at a new high. Now, I just want to show on an even bigger picture with this leg here, you just have uptrend break and price attempting a new high, but you still have to look at these smaller legs here. You have a little uptrend with this new low, break, first attempt higher, second attempt higher. You're coming off the high. When you come off one side, you can expect price to attempt to reach the other. And considering that trend played out at that triple top, right where we're still expecting a reversal, that's a great looking short for 1-to-1. So I really like that right there. We push on lower here. We got a very big push out. Obviously, we're not expecting it to push out that far. We're keeping our target at this range low, but it pushes on out. Then very suddenly, it goes barely lower than that previous level, and then it just pushes on up here. So it does look like a bit of sideways action is forming, but it's not, not super clear with the lows because they're not completely consistent. But clearly, we have some sideways action. It's much clearer off these highs. And so we push on up here. Now, if we get a failed second entry, then of course we can look for a long. Because like I said, a bullish imbalance was already starting. And so with this push down and then a very sudden spike back up, the imbalance is still holding, even though it pushed a little bit lower because it went barely lower than that previous level and it's still unable to reach the other side. And so great place to look for a long here on a failed second entry, but it ends up just pushing on higher, making this triple top right here. And so now we have this triple top. When we push lower here, if we get a couple legs up here, we would have uptrend, break, which I'm just going to draw it out really quick. So if we could have got something like this, I'm going to remove that for a second. If we got something like this, then we would have uptrend, break, first attempt higher, second attempt higher, and we could look to get in on the failure. And on the flip side of the count, it would be first entry long, second entry long, failure. So this is a great place to look for a short. Nothing sets up perfectly here. After this push lower, it ends up just chopping and holding above the EMA there. Really not good for a short. And anyway, when we start pushing on up here and breaking out, that's when the second leg is much more clear to see. We break out of the overnight high, and then it just gets completely choppy up there. When you break out of an overnight level, you want to see 2 attempts to fade before buying the breakout. And, right here, you get 1 attempt, and then you get your push up here, you get your second attempt, but it's just not clear. You have 2 attempts there, but it's a bearish bar. It's not a good bar. And then at this point, you're just entering into the highs, and it's already getting sideways. It's just not ideal. Now, when you push up here, this is a much more clear 2 legs, especially because the second leg is pushing lower than that first leg, unlike on this first example there. But it's fading. It's actually successfully fading. So that's not good on a, breakout trade. You don't want to see it pushing back in and getting a couple bars, very bearish, closing back inside the overnight level. So not an ideal trade right here. It's just, with measured moves, by the way, I just want to mention it was so close with this measured move, it almost met it. A lot of times, like say that this swing started there. It's really nice whenever it breaks out and then you get it pushes out a lot with a measured move still in play. That way you have more room for 2 clear legs, because with this nice leg here, if you get a correction without making a new high from it, it's going to be fading back in. And so, oftentimes you'll have a big measured move pushing out, and it's really good whenever it pushes out a lot, but still has room, so that way you can still get 2 clear legs. It just didn't set up that way here. We can still push back in, fade this range right here. It's clearly still in play. We're getting this reaction to it right here. If we push on lower here and get a couple legs back, again, another failed second entry opportunity. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I hope it helped out in some way, and thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next time.